I've been helping Americans build wealth and make smart decisions for over 30 years now. And I'm telling you, what's happening with driving laws in 2026 is something every senior needs to understand right now. See, most folks think driving regulations don't change much, but here's the reality. State legislatures across this country have been quietly passing new rules that directly affect how you drive, what you pay, and whether you can even keep your license without jumping through new hoops. And let me be crystal clear. I'm not talking about some far-off theoretical changes. These 10 new rules are in effect right now, today, in 2026. And if you're not prepared, you could be looking at unexpected fines, insurance rate hikes, or worse, losing your driving privileges altogether. Now, I know what you're thinking, Frank. I've been driving for 40, 50, maybe 60 years without problems. I hear you. But here's what concerns me. Rule number 4 is so unexpected, so different from anything we've seen before that even experienced drivers are getting caught off guard. This isn't about scaring you. It's about equipping you with the truth so you can protect yourself, your wallet, and your independence on the road. Look, I want you to grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and let's talk through this together because what I'm about to share with you is going to change how you think about driving in America. For decades, driving has been one of those things we take for granted. You get your license when you're 16 or 17, and unless you do something really foolish, that license stays with you for life. But 2026 has brought a wave of changes that are reshaping the entire landscape, and if you're a senior driver in this country, you need to know what's coming at you. Let me start with rule number 1, and this one's already causing a stir in states like California, Florida, and Texas. We're now seeing mandatory vision retesting for drivers over the age of 70. Now, I know some of you are thinking, Frank, I can see just fine, and maybe you can. But here's what the government is saying. They want documented proof every 2 years that your vision meets minimum standards. This isn't about doubting your abilities. It's about liability and public safety. The problem is this creates a whole new bureaucratic hurdle. You've got to schedule appointments, pay for eye exams that insurance might not cover, and if you don't pass, you're looking at restrictions on your license or even suspension. And I've talked to folks who've driven safely for 50 years, and now they're being told they need corrective lenses or they can't drive at night anymore. It's frustrating, I get it. But here's my advice. Don't wait for the state to send you a notice. Get ahead of this. Schedule your eye exam now. Make sure your prescription is current and keep that documentation handy because you're going to need it. Now, let's move to rule number 2, and this one hits you right in the pocketbook. Several states have implemented what they're calling senior driver surcharges on auto insurance premiums. Insurance companies have been lobbying for this for years, arguing that drivers over 70 statistically have higher accident rates. Whether that's fair or not is a different conversation. But the reality is this, if you're in one of these states, you could be paying an additional 15 to 30% on your premium starting this year. I'm talking about real money here, hundreds of dollars annually. And here's what makes me angry about this whole thing. The insurance industry is using broad statistics to justify charging you more, even if you have a spotless driving record. You've been paying premiums faithfully for decades, never filed a claim, and now they're penalizing you based on your age. It's discrimination wrapped up in actuarial tables. So, what do? Shop around. Don't just accept the surcharge lying down. Call different insurance companies. Ask about senior discounts, defensive driving course credits, anything that can offset these new fees, and document your driving record. If you've got 30, 40 years without an accident, that's leverage. Use it. Rule number 3 is something I never thought I'd see in America, but here we are. Mandatory vehicle technology requirements. Starting in 2026, if you're purchasing or registering a vehicle and you're over the age of 65, certain states are now requiring that your vehicle has specific safety features installed. We're talking about backup cameras, lane departure warnings, automatic emergency braking systems, and in some cases, even drowsiness detection technology. Now, if you're buying a new car, most of these features are already standard. But if you're like most seniors I know, you're driving a paid-off vehicle that you've owned for years and you're not looking to take on a car payment. The problem is if your vehicle doesn't have these features and you need to register it in one of these states, you're either going to have to retrofit it with aftermarket technology, which is expensive and not always reliable, or you're going to be forced to upgrade your vehicle. This is government overreach at its finest, folks. They're essentially telling you that your perfectly functional, paid-for car isn't good enough anymore. My take on this, if you're in one of these states, start researching certified installation shops now. Get quotes. Understand what's actually required versus what's recommended. And if you've been thinking about upgrading your vehicle anyway, factor this into your decision. Don't let this sneak up on you 6 months from now when your registration is due. All right, now we get to rule number 4, and this is the one that's going to shock you. I'm not exaggerating when I say this changes everything. Several states have quietly implemented what they're calling cognitive assessment requirements for license renewal for anyone over the age of 75. Let that sink in for a moment. You're going to be required to take a cognitive test, essentially a mental competency exam to prove you're capable of driving. This isn't just a vision test or a road test. This is a standardized assessment that evaluates your memory, your reaction time, your decision-making ability, and your mental sharpness. And here's the kicker. If you don't pass this test, your license can be suspended or revoked on the spot regardless of your driving record. Now, I want to be very clear about something. I'm not saying cognitive decline isn't a real issue. It is. And I'm not saying that unsafe drivers should be on the road. They shouldn't. But what I am saying is this. The way this rule is being implemented is problematic. These tests are being administered by DMV employees who have no medical training. There's no appeal process in many states, and there's no consideration for things like test anxiety, temporary stress, or even just having a bad day. I've heard from people who've been driving safely for 60 years and they failed this test because they got nervous or they didn't understand the format, and just like that, their independence is gone. So what do you do about this? First, find out if your state has implemented this requirement. Second, if it has, prepare for it like you would any other test. There are practice assessments online. Take them. Familiarize yourself with the format. And if you have any concerns about your cognitive health, talk to your doctor now, not after you failed a DMV test. Get a professional assessment, get documentation, and be proactive about protecting your rights. Rule number 5 is all about nighttime driving restrictions, and this one's already in effect in states like Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. If you're over the age of 70 and you renew your license, there's a new option or in some cases, a requirement that restricts your driving to daylight hours only. The rationale is that night vision declines with age and that nighttime accidents are more common among senior drivers. But here's what they're not telling you. This restriction can be added to your license without your explicit consent in some states if the examiner determines during your road test that your night vision is compromised. Imagine being told you can't drive after dark. No evening dinners with friends, no night drives to visit family, no flexibility in your schedule. For many seniors, this is devastating. It's not just about convenience, it's about autonomy and dignity. My advice, if you're concerned about night vision, get it tested professionally before your renewal. If you need corrective lenses or treatment for cataracts or other conditions, get it done now. Don't give them a reason to add restrictions to your license. Rule number 6 deals with license renewal frequency, and this is a money grab disguised as safety. Multiple states have shortened the renewal period for senior drivers from every 8 years to every 2 years. That means more frequent trips to the DMV, more fees, more testing, and more hassle. And let's be honest about what this really is. It's a revenue generator. Every time you renew, you're paying fees. Every time you test, there's a charge. It adds up quickly. But beyond the money, it's the time and stress. If you're someone who doesn't live near a DMV office, if you don't drive well in heavy traffic, or if you have mobility issues, this creates a real burden. My suggestion is to mark your calendar right now with your renewal dates. Don't wait for a reminder in the mail, because sometimes those notices get lost or arrive late. Stay ahead of the deadlines and plan accordingly. Rule number 7 introduces something called medical clearance for renewal, and this is where things get invasive. In certain states, if you're over 70 and you're renewing your license, you now need to provide a signed statement from your physician certifying that you're medically fit to drive. This means you've got to schedule a doctor's appointment specifically for this purpose. Pay for that visit, which insurance often doesn't cover because it's not a medical necessity, and then submit that paperwork to the DMV. If your doctor has any hesitation, or if there's anything in your medical record that raises a flag, you could be denied. I've heard stories of people whose doctors refused to sign these forms because they didn't want the liability even though the person had no actual driving impairment. This puts seniors in an impossible position. My recommendation is to have an honest conversation with your doctor about this requirement. Ask them directly if they foresee any issues. Get it in writing. And if your doctor won't sign, find out exactly why and address those concerns medically before you go to the DMV. Rule number 8 is about automated traffic enforcement expansion, and this affects everyone, but it hits seniors particularly hard. More cities and states are installing red light cameras, speed cameras, and automated enforcement systems. The fines are steep, often $200 or more per violation, and they're sent directly to the registered owner of the vehicle regardless of who is driving. For seniors on fixed incomes, these fines can be financially devastating. And here's the problem. Many of these cameras are set up in ways that are designed to generate revenue, not improve safety. Yellow lights are shortened, speed limits change suddenly, and cameras are placed in confusing intersections. My advice is simple. Slow down. Pay extra attention to traffic signals and be aware of where these cameras are located in your area. There are apps and websites that map them out. Use those resources. Rule number 9 involves increased penalties for at-fault accidents. If you're a senior driver and you're found at fault in an accident, several states have increased the penalties significantly. We're talking about higher fines, mandatory driving courses, and in some cases, automatic license suspension even for minor accidents. The justification is that it encourages safer driving, but what it really does is create a system where one mistake can cost you your license and your independence. This is why defensive driving courses are more important than ever. Take one. Not only can it reduce your insurance premiums, but it also demonstrates to the state that you're committed to safe driving. It can be a mitigating factor if you ever do have an accident. And finally, rule number 10 is about license plate and registration changes. Some states are now requiring seniors to display a special designation on their license plates or registration that identifies them as senior drivers. The stated purpose is to help law enforcement and emergency responders. But let's be real, it's a form of profiling. It singles you out. It makes you a target for scammers and criminals who assume seniors are more vulnerable. And it's humiliating. If your state implements this, push back. Contact your state representatives. This is not acceptable. Your age should not be publicly displayed on your vehicle. That's a privacy violation and a safety risk. So, there you have it. 10 new driving rules that are in effect right now in 2026. And every single one of them impacts you directly. This isn't some distant future scenario. This is happening today, and you need to be informed, prepared, and proactive. Don't let these changes catch you off guard.